Can the Auburn Tigers finish their non-con slate with a victory versus Monmouth? Let's talk about it right here. Let's step inside the town.
The Auburn Express. You are now listening to the War Report Longtown Podcast with your boy Ike Jones.
Welcome in, everybody. You got Ike Jones right here at the Lobtown Podcast, part of the Auburn Express in the War Report Podcast Network. We're here talking Auburn versus Monmouth going down tomorrow. Auburn is set to take on Monmouth there inside of Auburn set to take on Monmouth. I almost struggle saying it every single time. Right there inside of Neville Arena, Auburn looking to advance to 11-1 in this very tough non-conference slate that Bruce Pearl lined up for the team. A lot of great things happening for Auburn basketball right now, but let's go straight in here and talk about the head-to-head on this game. As you're watching this video, make sure you share the content with somebody, but goes down right side of Legacy Arena on December the 30th. And Auburn is set to take on Monmouth, who is 2-10 on the season right now. They're 2-10 on the season. They have not had the best go so far, but that game is set for 5:30 tip-off right there inside of Neville Arena. And, this isn't a game where I'm going to sit here and try to sell to you that Auburn is in danger or anything like that. But listen, you got to go out there and you got to win versus everybody. You can't just sleepwalk through a team, but they're only scoring just south of 68 points per game. If that holds true, that's not going to be enough. They're giving up 77 points per game. Again, that is not going to be good for an Auburn team that is scoring upwards of 80, almost 89 points per game and only surrendering 65. From a field goal percentage perspective, Monmouth isn't really shooting the ball very well on the season. They are only 38.3% on the year, which is not great for a field goal percentage. Let's just be honest. That is not great field goal percentage. 73.9% from the free throw line, which is better. They're rebounding 34 per game. 11 assists is decent, not great. 2.9 blocks per game, not great defensively. And steals per game is where, they're doing a decent job. They are creating steals in games that they've had so far this season. But, the numbers here for Auburn, 88.4, 64.5 surrendered, 51.4% from the field, which is phenomenal. Well, not phenomenal, but really good. Very efficient team. And we'll talk about the efficiency a little bit later. Rebounds per game at 39, assists per game at 19, 6.5 blocks per game, and 6.8 steals per game. King Rice and this team struggling to be able to do things, especially in the non-con when they're playing against Power 4 competition. So this is a game I fully expect for Auburn to go out and handle business in. Just need to come and take it seriously. So looking forward to seeing what the strategic thing for Coach Pearl and his team are going to be, is how they're going to attack Monmouth and not get into a late December sleeper game where they end up making it a more close contest than it needs to be. And they haven't done that so far this season. I think that they've respected every person who has stepped against them and every bit of competition that's happened. And I expect them to continue to do that in this game. When you look at the stat leaders for each of these teams, Janai Broome leads the way, of course, for Auburn, the National Player of the Year candidate. Janai Broome leads in points, rebounds, assists, and blocks for the Tigers. Chad Baker-Mazara is currently the leader per game in steals. For Monmouth, you have Bashir, who has been a kind of an ethereal scorer for them so far this year. He's been a revelation from that standpoint for them, scoring 21 points per game on 42% field goals, and he is shooting 92.1 from the free throw line. Not to mention, he is lighting it up from three so far this season. for Monmouth. He is shooting it at 42.9% from three. So he is absolutely a dynamic scorer and someone that Auburn's going to have to work to make sure that they're not letting him get off, because he can absolutely tilt a game for you, right? Like he can be a guy that can go out there and knock down 5 or 6 threes and on a heater. So you got to make sure that you're keeping him under wraps. Valencia is the rebounding leader for them. Durr leads in assists and steals, and then Valencia has also the blocks per game lead for Monmouth. Again, I talked about Bashir, and he's the guy that stood out to me. I watched a few games of theirs, and he absolutely can score at 3 levels, and can get hot from the outside and really put some pressure on your guards. He is a guy who, from a guard standpoint, not the biggest guy in the world, and pull up his kind of statistics here. As far as he is more Chad Baker Mazzara. So, right. So that's a matchup that I would expect to see here is Chad Baker versus Abdi Bashir Jr. 6'7", 160, right? So he's built very similarly to a Chad Baker, right? And so he's going to be a guy that I think that's going to be an interesting matchup for Auburn. The Miles Kelly and Chad Baker combination going up against what you have there with Bashir, because that really is the matchup that you really want to look at and pinpoint for Auburn in those two. I'm pulling up Chad here and just kind of looking at him statistically. It was his frame 6'7", 180 versus 6'7", 160, right? Like they're built very similarly. Bashir is quick and lengthy, and he's going to pose a problem. I do expect maybe, Auburn switches a lot of stuff, so you're going to see some cross matchups, but that matchup is likely going to be Chad Baker versus him. This team in general from Monmouth, they're a pretty long team, right? Like they're a team, I'm going to pull up some more of their roster stuff here really quickly just so we can take a look at that. But 6'1" Eric Demings is probably the only small guy that gets any playing time for them. You look at kind of their team and the composition of minutes per game. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys playing over 20 minutes per game, and then it drops off into the low teens for everybody else. So they're not going to go deep either, right? So the guys who are in their starting 5 are going to be the guys that are going to get the vast majority of the minutes. Auburn's depth is really what's going to cause this to be a problem for them. I just don't know how Auburn loses this game when they can just send waves of players and bodies at their score in Bashir and not have to have a single person responsible for that. So foul trouble going to be something that Auburn needs to make sure that they're monitoring, but they have bodies that they can send at him. They can even send a Chaney Johnson at him as a big body if they wanted to. You can put Chris Moore out there as a body on him. So you've got guys that you can send in waves to be able to have fouls available and still keep him under wraps, while seeing that this team doesn't really have the defensive depth to be able to stick with Auburn. This should be an easy game for Auburn, but let's just kind of take a look at some of the head-to-head things. Auburn's defense, sending teams to the free throw line at a rate of 33.4 versus 35.2 for Monmouth. So again, it's a team that, they're sending guys to the line frequently. Auburn hasn't gotten to the line a ton this year, but this team will send you to the line. 2-point percentage, Auburn is only giving up 42.5%, while they're only shooting 40%, right? 3-point rate, they're shooting it at a rate of 35.7, hitting 32.5% of those. Auburn surrendering 32.5 versus 31.6 percentage given up. Effective field goal percentage, Auburn holding teams to 44.1%. Monmouth shooting it at 44.6% effective. Like they're just not. I don't think they have the offense to be able to do anything in this game. And these numbers look even worse when you go and look at what they're doing on the road this season. They're sending them to the foul line even more, and Auburn's sending them to the foul line even less. 2-point percentage drops for both of them to around 38%. And the 3-point rate is around 36. So really what Auburn is doing to teams defensively is what Monmouth is getting traditionally on the road, except for they're shooting a better 3-point percentage on the road. But Auburn's only surrendering 22.5% at home. Again, I don't expect that trend to change in this game. Effective field goal percentage still in the 40s there. Auburn's only surrendering 36.7%. Now Auburn's turning teams over a little bit better at home so far this season. So again, the matchup here is kind of lopsided, and this is really with the tough non-con slate that Auburn has had. You need one of these games just to get some rest as you get ready to head into your last break before SEC play kicks up here in January. This is a good game where you should get the subs in fairly quickly there. 5 or 6 minutes left in the game, you should see, that third rotation kind of creep in there, and your starters not see any more time, is what I would expect to be happening here in this game. I don't want to see even a close matchup with this one. You flip it over to the other side and you talk about them defensively. Again, defensively, they're sending teams to the free throw line. 43.6% of the time is the rate at which they're sending folks to the free throw line. They are giving up 55.6% of twos. So they're on the 2-point percentage, 50% of them. So they don't really have the shot blocking. You saw that they're only doing about 3 block shots per game. Giving up a 40% 3-point rate, and 3-point percentage above 34, almost 35% or 34.5%. Effective field goal percentage, teams are shooting above 50% up for them for total field goal percentage. And then turning over. Now they're doing a decent job of turning teams over, but again, I mean, and that's indicative of what you see in their steals per game, 6.9 steals. But Auburn is just on a heater right now offensively, and I just don't know that this team has the defense to be able to stop any of this stuff. Shooting 61.5% from 2 and 40% from 3, 43% from 3, 38% from 3, 43.2% free 3-point rate. So the rate that they're putting them up. Effective field goal percentage at almost 60, 59.6%. When you look at those numbers at home, it just gets ridiculous. And what Monmouth is doing on the road, the effective field goal percentage being 63.4 is absurd. 39.7 from 3 is absurd. Almost 40% as a team from 3 is just crazy when they're shooting inside of Neville Arena, and 66.5% from 2, which is like, again, just quantifying that. You're talking about a team that is basically getting layups and dunks whenever they want to, for the most part on the interior, and finding little resistance. 2-point percentage surrendered. Monmouth's only almost giving up 58% there, and giving up 35% from 3. Again, this is a game where Auburn should not struggle. I'll be very frustrated if I'm here on a post game talking about a narrow victory in this game versus Monmouth. Again, unless there's some crazy foul situation happening, or Bashir goes crazy and he scores like 50, right? He has some sort of ethereal game. Then I don't see any reason why Auburn doesn't walk away with a victory in this one. There's just too much offense for Auburn in this one versus not enough defense, too many bodies to be able to throw at them. So I expect an easy victory here for Auburn. The physicality shouldn't be a problem. So looking forward to seeing an Auburn victory in this one. Looking forward to seeing the matchup, though, versus, Chad Baker Mazara versus Bashir. Again, you can throw a smaller body like Denver Jones if you want to at him. You can definitely throw, Miles Kelly at him out of the starting lineup. So going to be interesting to see that defensive matchup. And this is a good matchup for some of the things that we'll talk about as we get into SEC play. Speaking of SEC play, also was able to sit down with Max Barr from Southeastern 16 to preview the Auburn SEC slate coming up here. So I've got that dropping for you all later on. So you guys make sure that you check that out. So it's going to be after the Monmouth game ends. We'll talk a little bit about SEC play. So I'll have that ready for you all sometime tomorrow night after the game. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Like this video up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share the content with somebody. Give me your score predictions. Haven't heard all of these statistical things that I've thrown out there for you. What are your score predictions for this game? Definitely want to hear that from you all. I'll holler at you guys next time. But until then, and as always, War Eagle.